Hi everyone. Yes, we very much hope that you'll see some video today. So we'll see how we get on with that. Just while we're setting up, I guess, a bit more introduction about who we are and what we do. Our job titles are very unhelpful in that we're both called creative media managers. In practice, that means we spend a lot of our days making videos, everything from scripting to actually shooting them, editing, animating, doing post-production, and that sort of stuff. But on the other side, we're also putting that stuff out on Oxford's very big social media channels. We're partners with Google and things like that, so we have a little bit of an insight into strategy, and we've certainly made a colossal number of mistakes, which we hope, because we're not here to sell you anything, we can discuss a little bit of today.
So, why should you care? That's a reasonable enough question. You might be thinking, my institution doesn't have a YouTube channel, I don't work in comms, I can hear the sandwiches rustling furtively in the next room, I'm really hungry. So you'll be glad to hear I'm contractually obliged to convince you that you should care about video on social media. So basically, the reason that you should have video on social media is because people are there. That's where you will find people. So if you're not the one getting your messages out there, someone else will be. So to lead from what you were learning earlier about hygiene content, we did a little experiment. That's nice and blurry. We put University of Oxford into YouTube, which is the world's second largest search engine after Google's other one, and these are the top results that came out. And we're glad to see that our channel was the top one. But the second result is one called My First Week at Oxford University, and includes a line you might not be able to see because it's small and blurry, but it says, "OMG guys, Oxford is amazing, I'm so happy." Which, is positive, that's great, but it maybe doesn't include some of the nuance of some of the messages that we might want to get across about inclusivity and the fact you don't have to be frenziedly excited to study there. So whatever your role is in your institution, whether you're making videos, whether you're commissioning them, whether you're just, around in the office, it matters because this is how people will find you. And if there's nothing up there, someone else will be telling the message for you, and they might not be quite so pleasant.
Exactly. And an issue with some of the content that you're putting out there and a kind of the battle that you have to face is fundamentally for attention. If this were a video, this whole presentation, even cut slightly short to get you all out to lunch on time, you would have stopped paying attention at the first slide. This is a video that we didn't make, but colleagues of ours did, about the deleterious effects of lack of sleep. So all the various things that might happen to you if you don't sleep properly. So you might suffer from mental illness, or you might have diabetes. They've illustrated the road to diabetes there as the A9, which is a road in Scotland, by the way. And this is a perfectly good video. It's an animation about some of the effects of sleep, and it's very, very well done, but it's a couple of minutes long. We put it up on Facebook relatively early in our experiments on sort of native video on that platform, and discovered that within the first 7 seconds, it had lost basically half its audience. So that corresponding very much to the first slide. So what sort of messages might you want to take from that?
So there's a very important lesson, and we're going to demonstrate that now with a bit of video. Looking good there, Tom.
Thank you.
So I suppose I should introduce myself. I'm Tom Wilkinson, and I'm online media producer at the University of Oxford.
Let's try that again.
What that means.
We are professionals, I promise.
So I suppose I should introduce myself. I'm Tom Wilkinson, and I'm online media producer at the University of Oxford. And what that means is I make videos for the Oxford University website. And in terms of what we aim to do, I suppose it's to make videos that are to the point, and to that end, I think we should always bear in mind the idea that short videos work really well. Yeah.
Now, that was 45 seconds of your lives you'll never get back. We've heard there's about 200 of you here today, so that's 9,000 seconds, or 2.5 hours. In that time, you could boil 25 eggs consecutively. That's how heinous that kind of video is. It's like boiling 25 eggs consecutively in someone's face, wasting their time, when they're waiting for lunch. Anyway, so the point of this is, we see quite a lot of videos like this that people will make. Maybe they didn't quite know what they were doing. So just to very quickly make the point that Tom was trying to say, we could edit that down to...
So I suppose I should introduce myself.
That's all right.
Short videos work really well.
Exactly. So hopefully that's hammered home the point about brevity to you. But brevity is a kind of an interesting thing because it's not just a kind of a quantitative thing, just make it shorter. We actually feel that videos, once they go down below a certain point, actually start doing something slightly different. You might hear from everyone from copywriters to graphic designers to shop fitters, where they describe themselves as storytellers. It's a big thing among marketers everywhere to describe themselves as storytellers, and they get a bit of shtick for that. But actually, thinking about the kind of time that you have to grab people's attention, you're not really going to be able to tell that story to them. So rather than thinking about you producing a kind of storybook for them, perhaps a better way to think about that is a kind of billboard. Obviously, if you didn't get very much from that billboard just then. And as a consequence, imagining the kind of attention of, say, a driver going past that. You've actually captured very accurately the kind of impression that you might get with someone seeing material on social media. There won't be any sound associated with that, so some kind of talking head isn't going to be particularly effective. They're not going to have a lot of time there. It may just be scrolling past for a few seconds, and so consequently that thing right at the beginning has to be very carefully chosen. But that has all kinds of other implications. For instance, even the formatting, the framing of the things that you choose to do. You might have something that works very, very beautifully, full screen, behind your website or something like that. But if people only have a few seconds to digest it, maybe that framing has to be simpler. Maybe it has to be something a little bit bolder. We won't play this whole video through, but this was a video that someone might have put in response to that. Again, not something that we made, but something that we posted. And here is the splash screen. It's just a series of sort of flashy images with text running alongside. It works without sound. It says some fairly basic stuff about the product, and it gets out the way. It's a billboard rather than a storybook, and we find that's a much more effective way to communicate. But again, since we're here talking about mistakes, we didn't get this perfect either. One of the things that you might need to think about in formatting the video for social media is its physical shape. It's no longer necessary, if you're putting it to a service like Instagram, actually to chop the sides off, so you're making it square, like a lot of the images that appear on Instagram. But actually, because people might be watching that video on a phone, about half of the people that watch these videos watch them on a phone, by the way, the video will rotate. And if it's in that 16:9 orientation here, when they rotate it, you're actually losing quite a lot of the screen area, whereas that is obviously not a problem that you'd have if the video is in a square format. So even these titles are a little bit wide on either side in terms of getting people to see stuff.
So let's say when you're putting this video together, you need to think about, what do you have that you can use? What's special about your institution? So we've quite potentially called it a comparative advantage theory of video, which is a metaphor I still don't entirely understand, but I'm going to use it anyway. So
it's an economics undergraduate, by the way.
For shame. So in essence, it's using what you have, taking advantage of that. Because in terms of reach, in terms of getting the audience, perhaps you don't have the followers on Facebook that you want. Of course you don't. If you had them, you could talk to them. So one of the issues is trying to reach those audiences. Other people will have them. So it's trying to make things that will be useful, will be shareable by the people that have access to that kind of audience. Now, obviously, we work for a university, and one of our main things is talking about the research that we do. So we don't have massive reach, perhaps, to tell people about research. We've got captive audiences, somewhat captive audiences, Twitter, Facebook, and so on, but nothing compared to the traditional media. So you can see here, this is a graph of a video about pain in babies. Someone was researching pain in babies, not in a way that was actually painful for the babies. Apparently that's unethical. But you'll see it's just bumbling along at the bottom there, and then suddenly there's a massive spike. And that was when the video was embedded in the Daily Mail, of all places, when some news came out around the researcher who was doing this, who had released a paper, not that they'd been arrested for punching babies. And you can see that there's a massive spike. Now, in essence, the Daily Mail wouldn't have been able to come to Oxford, wouldn't have been able to interview the researcher, wouldn't have been able to film the babies, sort all of that stuff out. So we were using what we had, which was access to the facilities and the time that we had to make the video. So we could produce that thing, and then the access to the audience came from somewhere else. Now, perhaps you're not a research institution. There's other ways that there's other things you want to do. So we're going to come back to it a bit later, but one of the things to think about is micro-communities. We found with videos about the boat race that one particular video in a series about rowing was massively popular, and it was all about coxes. And it turns out that coxes are their own sort of small community around the world who share stuff. So they were interested that someone had made a video about them, and so this video was popping up in forums all over the world for people who like rowing. So perhaps you could find someone who is interested, a group that perhaps shares an interest that could share some of the content that you were producing.
Exactly. And related to the fact that these big institutions might pick up your content, there's another thing that we've begun to find when we post material on social media. Again, this won't necessarily be applicable directly, but it has some interesting lessons which I think everyone here might be interested in. One is that you're more likely to be ripped off. Here's another video about robot cars that we made. This is a video that you'll find on futurism.co.uk and on their social media page. This is all footage that we put together. They found a video, they re-edited it, removing all the plugs for funders and our researchers talking about their work, and credited us there. There you go, there's a bit of transparency up there. And in a sense, we should be flattered, I suppose. And certainly organisations like the Daily Mail and the Telegraph and that kind of thing now do that themselves. They ask forgiveness rather than permission. Find your content online, reuse it, cut it up, use it for other purposes. Under those circumstances, obviously, you have a degree of legal redress if there's something that's actually not appropriate. But sometimes when you're looking to put out a message, a particularly good news story or sporting victory or beautiful views of your campus or whatever it might be, maybe you want to leave it up there and you want to get someone else giving it that reach. But under those circumstances, perhaps you might want to start thinking about the content in a way that allows it to be stolen and reused and cut up, but nevertheless keep your institution in frame. In that instance, for instance, the robot car had a series of logos all over it and that kind of thing. We're not quite talking about a kind of Premier League, all the logos behind people as they talk, but it's that sort of thing. It's working out what might be distinctive or what you might want to say about your institution, for instance, in terms of diversity, and making sure that those things that you show in a way that still work if someone abstracts out those couple of seconds from your content.
Okay, so you've already heard a little bit today about, well, quite a lot about analytics, and it's something that I assume most of you are interested in. So it's very important to understand how is best to evaluate your video, whether or not it has been successful. So has anyone here read The Faults in Our Stars? Yep, so the writer, Hank Green, has a brother who is a YouTuber. Now, he wrote a well-shared, well-read article on medium.com, I think last year, at the start of what has become a growing controversy around, oh, hello.
It's a rogue remote user in the audience, perhaps.
Huh? About the controversy around Facebook views and what counts as them. And at the time, Hank Green was writing about the fact that a Facebook view, Facebook was overinflating the view figures. So a view on Facebook was being counted at 3 seconds as an autoplay without sound, compared to on YouTube, it was 30 seconds and you had to click on it. So an autoplay doesn't count as a view. And obviously this meant that a lot of people got a bit excited because they're like, wow, Facebook, so many views on there, people are engaging with it. And of course, maybe they're not comparable numbers. And since then, there's been lots of changes on the technical side. So YouTube has started using watch time rather than view figures as their primary metric. Facebook more recently has started showing on their analytics pages 10-second views as opposed to 3-second views, and you can see whether or not they were autoplaying. But in essence, we don't really know how these numbers are worked out. And given that we get things like this coming through in the press, maybe the numbers aren't the things that we should be looking at. And so to repeat what we heard earlier, you want to be looking at qualitative measures. So if, say, you want people to apply for a course, or you want people to be to come in for an open day or anything like that, then maybe you should be asking people when they come, why are you here? Not in an aggressive way, but well, you could, but they might not come back. And ask them, was the video relevant to why they're there? And that can help you to understand what success is, because of course you don't necessarily just want someone to be sliding past something, you want them to be doing what you planned.
Exactly, and in the last few minutes here we have a quick case study to illustrate that point. This is a video we made, which I suppose would be described as hero content, a few years ago. We made it in 2013, and we had a brief to make a video for Christmas. So, here we go.
I think we're in the clear.
Oh, hooray!
This reminds me of
A chance to relax.
Peace at last.
I love Christmas.
grapes. Now, who's up for some fun?
Did someone say fun?
Ho, 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 ho.
I don't have time for fun.
We don't.
I don't remember fun.
Well, I don't see the appeal.
I'm staying in bed.
Come on, YOLO! King Alfred and the House of Wessex order you to have fun. All right, I know what'll win them over. Here, give me a note. Someone, give me a note. Nearly. A little bit sharp. Flat. Grapes.
And the bells are ringing. Ding dong, merrily in the sky is ringing with angels singing.
I love you, man. I'm sorry for everything. You'll have a bite of me if you want. Until next year, then.
Season's greetings. Season's greetings.
Grapes?
So we found that was quite popular, more than we expected. A few 100,000 people saw it that Christmas. And it illustrated some of the ways that we could use our strengths to our advantage. We were able to get a lot of access to the museum and permission to use a lot of their collections, slightly humorously. And we found this kind of micro-tribes concept very much came into play. Lots of different curators, curatorial groups would share it. So everyone who was interested in antique bronzes or samurai armor or whatever would see that particular part, share it with their friends, and so on. And that built a kind of first wave of success. And at that point, the mainstream media picked it up. The Telegraph ran it as one of their kind of Christmas videos of the year, and then it really, really took off. But on the point of view of analytics, all that we could really say at that point was a lot of people had seen it. It so happened that the January following that, the Ashmolean Museum had their most popular ever exhibit at a traditionally quiet time of year, and we're going to take credit for that for the rest of our lives. But that's just a correlation. There's no proof of the causation there. So perhaps if we thought at the beginning about what might have been the kind of the stretch goals, we just wanted to make something shareable, but actually perhaps there's something beyond that we could do, and think about maybe how those qualitative measures could be built in terms of surveys in the gallery or what have you, then we might have been able to say more definitively, and definitely to our benefit, that this had that effect. So those things to think about. And just to run those up again, these are our fundamental take-home points. First of all, keep it short. Definitely keep it short. So make a billboard. Make something that works in those first few seconds. Play to your strengths in terms of what you have access to, the time that you're able to take with your staff, and maybe the kind of tribes of alumni or interested parties that you might have access to. Brand cleverly in expectation that maybe this stuff might be stolen. And lastly, know your goals, which really should be the first point in terms of what you want to do with this video. So with that, we're done.